Okay, very well. Well, thank you once again for joining us. We are here on the Investor Session webinar number 5, if I'm counting correctly. So there have been a series of 4, which are purely informationals to help you make your own best decision when it comes time to investing in Riviera Maya. Each webinar has covered different topics. This webinar will be probably the shortest of all of them. And it's just talking about after the sale, the cost and what happens after. The ones before, just as a quick recap, we talked about what is the Riviera Maya and where is it? And all the different, towns along the way. Puerto Morelos, Playa del Carmen, Akumal, Puerto Aventuras, Tulum. We talked about, the legalities of buying, investing as a foreigner in Mexico in the restricted zone. We really discussed in depth in one whole investor session what is a fideicomiso and why does it exist. We talked about all the historical reasons, very important to understand, and the benefits and what a very secure investment vehicle it is. Also about buying in a Mexican corporation. If you want to buy the property in a Mexican corporation, we talked about that. We really discussed also in the very first webinar, which was very well received, what is the buying process? How can we help you? How can we help you get the best property for you that you want? Not about us, what property we want to sell, but what you want to own. And we really are advisors. We're a professional team of real estate advisors who really have, hearts to work with you in your time frame to find what you want. So we discussed all those. We discussed also in depth in another investor session about the closing process, lawyers versus notarios, how they work together with us as real estate agents and you as the investor. We went over some really detailed closing costs at different price points of properties. Everybody needs to know that before they can make any, investment decision, and we discussed that in depth. This one is all about after the close and what happens after that. So let's get started. Okay, so now that we've talked about cost of closing and lawyers and notarios, let's talk about after the sale. You own it, it's yours, you have your keys, you've moved in, you've started using it, yay. And what does it cost to own in the property in Mexico year after year after year? There are annual costs, and their annual costs are your predial, which is property tax bill. And as I discussed in the closing costs, they might seem really high. Look at these property taxes. I think that you'll see the benefit when you understand here. I'm going to show you these closing costs. Okay, on a property that has a purchase price of 400. Well, we're selling it. It's in process right now. We're selling it for $475,000. It's a 3-bedroom condo right on the beach. Their property tax this year was 5,046 pesos, which is about, $270, something like that at the current exchange rate. So that's the property tax bill annually for that one. Here's another one that is a $780,000 condo. Its appraised value is somewhat more, as you can imagine, than the last example. It has a property tax of 9,348 pesos in the year 2020. 3,000, well, that's 9,400 divided by 20, for example. So $460 a year. Okay. Then you have one final example of a $245,000 condo whose property tax in the year we sold this year, 2020, was 3,024 pesos. That's about $250. Roughly speaking, depending on exchange rate. So there you have some concrete, clear realities of what property tax are annually. Okay, then we go back to the other annual cost so there's two. We just talked about property tax. We have also the bank trust. Every year you pay the bank trust a maintenance fee, and that maintenance fee, depending on the bank you're with, is roughly, as we saw in the previous examples, between $500 and $550 per year. And then, of course, you have some monthly costs. The monthly costs depend on where you own. So if you own in a condominium, or if you have a home but it's part of a common property project, there's the HOA fees, which are also known as the condominium fees or monthly maintenance fee. Either one of those phrases is referring to the same thing. And what is it? What does it cover? It covers all of the common costs of owning a property like that. Pool maintenance, pool repair, external, common property electricity, administrative costs for running the condominium. All of those are included in the HOA, insurance on the building, and all the common things. If there's a concierge, paying the concierge, those kind of things. The HOA fee ranges depending on the property and the amount of the amenities. We see HOA fees anywhere from $180 a month up to, $500 a month if it's a beachfront property. The other thing common to a beachfront property that's not part of a non-beachfront property is the federal beach zone payment, and that's why your HOA fees will be a bit higher percentage-wise in a beachfront property, because you're paying a tax on the beachfront also. So, $500 a month for a 3-bedroom, it sounds like a lot, but in reality, they're the most heavily rented. And so everything is covered by your rental. It's just important to understand why costs are like they are. Your own personal monthly utility fees, Telmex, electricity, the water that you might use if you, use cable service, all of those are monthly fees for each owner. Now, something that is another fee different from the HOA fee is property management fee. This is a fee that this is an amount you will pay your property manager, who is a particular person who manages inside your condo for you. You have the whole building, and then you have inside your condo. And they manage that for you, and there's an administrative charge for that. I see again anywhere from, $100 to $200 a month, depending on what property management and what level of service. If you are renting your property, yes, you can rent your property and you can earn dollars. You have the cost of, the cleaning, the maid, the ins and outs, the cost of marketing your property, those kind of things. You can absolutely rent your property and earn dollars from it. Some people earn very handsome returns on their investment, and some people don't rent at all. So one thing in my company that is a little bit different is we don't promote the concept of ROI, return on investment. We just don't do that. We can show you historicals and we can say that it's possible, but we would never promise, because the return on your investment is related to many different factors. What's going on in the real world, such as COVID. Before COVID, none of us ever imagined that there would be such a thing. Wow, that cough was timed well, right? Anyways, there's a lot of different factors, and a lot of people promote the ROI, and yes, I want to tell you that you can earn your money. The way we usually describe it is, look, if you want to have a property and you want to, use it personally and rent it sometimes to cover your cost of ownership and put some money in your pocket, that's fantastic. That is a given in all of my years here in Riviera Maya. That's been a consistent. What do I usually see historically? I can tell you I've seen between 3 to 7% depending on where the property is, how often it's rented, when you want to rent it. Obviously, there are certain times a year that garner, higher rental amounts. So I've seen, 3%, which is, remember, that's still pretty good considering that that covers the cost of all of the expenses, and you've used it, and still to put a little bit of money in your pocket, that's a really good thing, and you have the possibility of appreciation over time. So where do people rent their properties? Airbnb, most owners that I have tell me that VRBO is the big one. There's condo hotel management groups that can rent it for you, or you can do on your own also, family groups, work, that kind of thing. And like I was saying before, many real estate agencies promise a high % return on investment, but we at LRM, we do not. We approach it from a lifestyle perspective, because that's why you're buying here. You're investing here for a lifestyle. I have almost 20 years real estate experience in resort and second home markets between Playa del Carmen and Whistler, BC. And, that it shows me that the guaranteed high return on investment is just not possible. And you'll get something. I just won't promise you a high amount or exactly what. Again, depending on how much you use it, when you use it, competition of other properties, prices, amenities, location, condition of property, experience of the guests as they write on those, those sites, on your property management, external factors in the world, economic crisis, COVID as discussed, factors locally, hurricanes, that's about the only one here. Sometimes we have Sargasso. That's a new phenomenon that never used to affect us, and now we have to consider it. Our most successful owners have a realistic expectation of using the property and renting it some, while earning an income is a bonus that offsets the cost of ownership. And what kind of income can I expect? Okay, historically, I have a condo that I have listed that is in the process of a purchase contract, and its price is just below $500,000. It's fully furnished, and it's a 3-bedroom. And as an example, he earned net, after all of his expenses that I've just mentioned, after his property taxes, after paying his property manager, after the utilities, after the maids, after the everything, he earned in his pocket $40,000 for the last several years. In the same building, we sold another property this year for around the same purchase price, and that owner put in his pocket roughly $20,000 for the same size condo, around the same price. Why? Because that second owner, who earned $20,000 net of all of his expenses, wasn't as active. The first owner is the one handling all of the inquiries on Airbnb and VRBO. So again, your income is dependent on how you operate your condo. I highlight those two examples as very clear examples of handing your property over to a property manager and being hands-free. You'll still put money in your pocket after all of your expenses, or being the one who is really involved and then you earn a substantial amount. There are reasons why we don't talk about ROI, because it's very dependent on how you are going to use it. So after describing all of this, are there tax implications for income that you've earned? I have to be very clear and straightforward with you to say, yes, there are tax implications and obligations. The good news is there are tax treaties between Mexico, US, and Canada, meaning if you pay taxes in one country, you don't pay the same in another. In the past, many owners receive all the funds for rental direct in their US or Canadian accounts, so that that makes the rent for the property taxable in their home country. It's simple because at least they feel in control and they know the laws and what their tax is going to be. But the Mexican law says something different, that the income earned on a property in Mexico must pay taxes in Mexico. The collection of that has been, more difficult, and so that's why we've seen some pressure and some laws trying to change so that Mexico really does get its taxes based on the property that's rented here in Mexico. What I am doing here is this whole information piece is informational only. I'm not a property manager, and I believe that you will work with your property manager, and if you need information from a reliable accountant here in Mexico, well, actually the lawyer can also provide it for you. I'm just providing information for you to understand what is and what isn't. Most people rent very successfully. We consider, as I mentioned, rental income as a bonus. It is not the reason to buy. ROI is never guaranteed. I have attended some tax seminars in 2020 due to the fiscal reform. Yes, it seems that there's fiscal reforms quite frequently. And I'm not an accountant nor a property manager. We can set you up with people who are best suited to help you in this regard. That's why it's a very important business. And I think that's about it for after the sale. If you have any questions, let's handle those now in the question and answer. And thank you for attending all of our investor session webinars.